Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Valentina. I'm a fourth year Chief Science Officer, and I'm currently studying in Prepa Tec Querétaro, so in Mexico.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben. I'm a Chief Science Officer from Verado High School, and I'm a junior.
So please grab a pen and paper for jotting down notes during the meeting. You'll want to have that handy. And also be sure to reference your Spring Cabinet pages in your CSO binder. So we'll be sure to link those in the chat. And note that you need to be logged into your CSO account as well. So thanks again for being on the call and in the room here today. At this time, we're gonna take attendance. So I think we're gonna do that via chat. Welcome, CSO Adeline, CSO Bella.
Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you of a few Zoom edit rules. First off, remember everyone before we get started to change your Zoom name to CSO and then your first name. If you don't know how to do that, you can click on participants and then hopefully a little screen will pop up and you can scroll over to your name and click rename. Other things to keep in mind is the chat box is a really great tool. So all comments and questions should be posted in the chat box. Also, on that note, remember to keep your microphone muted so that we can continue on without any interruptions. And if you can, we would love to see your faces. Even in breakout rooms, we would love to see your faces. But also with that, remember to turn off your video if you're moving around. There's also a feature to raise your hand for help or for any other clarifications. So we are modifying the passing notes activity just a little bit since we're online. Instead of grabbing a note card, we're going to be using a Jamboard. You will complete this statement. Being a CSO means, and then ... All right, we'll give you a few more moments if anyone has anything else to add. But so far, I've seen being a CSO means being a leader, absolutely. Advocating for your peers, that's a very big one. Inspiring others about STEM, absolutely. Being a CSO means being social and creative and inspiring others to do the same. Yep, one of the biggest parts about being a CSO is networking and collaborating with others. That's also a really, really good one. Creating more STEM opportunities in your community. And what do we call that when we're trying to implement a new STEM activity in our community? Does anyone know what we call that? Yep, action plans. That's right. One that I really like here is being a CSO means to be a leader and showing everyone that they can be leaders by inspiring and being creative and social to help everyone. Well, I think a big part about being a leader is also inspiring other people to become leaders because I'm trying to remember who said it. I don't remember, but a really famous quote is, leaders don't create followers, leaders create other leaders. So we're going to take a few more moments to finish this up, and I think we can head back over into the slides.
So I'm going to ask Bella. Bella, if you're able to unmute, I'm not sure where you're sitting, but hopefully you can unmute and share with us. So Bella is, I remember we had a conversation, she's been meeting with us. She's part of Pendergast School District. We've been meeting on Mondays once a month and kind of just touching base. And then I had the chance to meet Bella in person at the Buckeye Airfair. So Bella, I was hoping you could unmute and share a little bit about your journey as a CSO and about your time at the Buckeye Airfair with your blue hands.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So, yes, I was a participant at the Buckeye Airfair, and I was running around the whole place doing a few different booths. I was helping another CSO with her booth, and my booth as well. And both of us had been doing an experiment which we call Walker Toothpaste. And this experiment, we both put our ideas together and made it happen. And I think this was a very fun and inspiring event, especially because it was my first ever event.
Thanks, Bella. I think you did a great job. And it was a great picture of collaboration. She mentioned that she was working with another CSO who she hadn't even met until that day. It was fabulous. And also Bella, partway through the year, ended up with a new advisor too. So Bella, thanks for being a trailblazer and for making it happen. Your dream about doing an experiment for younger kids at the Buckeye Airfair, it was great to have you there. And I love your blue hands. I hope that they're not blue any longer. All right. And so we're going to kind of move into our training part. So Chief Science Officers Program continues to grow. If you didn't know, we are, we're international. We're in Kenya and Kuwait hopefully will be coming back. Mexico has just exploded. We have a ton of CSOs in Mexico. We've brought on recently Hawaii has joined us. Western New York is getting geared up again. Idaho. We're all over the US, which is pretty exciting. So we want to we want to have you give us updates on your action plans, and then while we're doing our training, and then discuss any challenges that you may have. It's a good time to talk about that, good time to talk about teamwork and learning from our STEM professionals. Hopefully they can join us. But I'm going to turn this piece back over to Ben to talk about program goals.
Thank you. We would like to take a few minutes to review the 4 CSO program goals because these are truly the foundations for all things we do as CSOs. The first one is to create a global network of diverse STEM leaders. The second one is to foster communication and collaboration among CSOs. The third one is to enrich STEM culture and career awareness. And the fourth program goal is to amplify student voice in STEM conversations in the community. So if you had to pick one that you would relate to most right now, what would it be? And has it changed since the leadership training camp? Okay, we have one vote for 4, which is amplify student voice in STEM conversations in the community. I know through CSO I've gotten opportunities to actually travel quite a bit and to be that student voice in STEM conversations. I know right before COVID, I went to the STEM Ecosystems Conference in San Antonio, and I was able to talk to people and advocate about student voice in STEM conversations. Wow, we have people who love all the different goals. I see a lot of 3s, a few 1s. I see some 2s. I think number 2 is really important, especially right now, because it's sort of difficult since the pandemic. It's been a little bit more difficult to connect and communicate with each other.
Thank you, CSO Ben, and to all the share outs in the chat. So these are 4 very important goals that we need to keep in mind during our action planning. So as you know, the CSO action plan is the most important part of your journey. You need to do something, whether it is a big project or simple like morning announcements. You must implement at least one action plan to make an impact in your class, grade level, at your school, or in the community. So we're going to share our current status on action plans in just a few moments during breakout rooms. And then we're going to come back into the main room and have another share out. So remember, while we have these conversations, to use your elevator pitch, hello, my name is, and your school, cabinet, and what your action plan includes. Or yeah, if we could have you type that in the chat. So again, the format for the elevator pitch is, hello, my name is CSO Valentina, the Chief Science Officer from Mexico in West Valley Cabinet. My action plan this year includes, and then there you put your idea.
Let's go to the next slide, Valentina, and then they can look at those parts, and then there is a script for them after that. So if you'll just talk about this one really quick.
Yeah, sure. So as you can see here, we have the different phases. We have the initial, the approved, the reflection, and the additional. So by this time, we hope that you have your reflection, you're getting your reflection done, and maybe even getting in that additional action plan. And yep, so here we have the format again. So be sure to put in the chat using this format what your action plan is.
If you have a camera or a screenshot, you can take this because you're going to use this in the breakout rooms. Or jot it down quickly with your pen and paper.
Yep, and then you're also going to have to jot down any suggestions that you get during the breakout room. So anything that can help in that feedback.
This is also in the CSO binder. If you receive that link from your advisor, or if you have it, it's in there for you to refer back to as well.
Yep, and then Kelly just put in the chat some great sentence starters on that reflection piece that we're adding to the elevator pitch.
That was at least, I'm assuming the other breakout room was just as good as the one I was in, but it was fabulous. And I loved hearing all the great things that you guys are doing. So I'm gonna put you on the spot and call out some schools. And if you're not on here, we still would like to hear, if you're willing to share, we'd like to kind of hear what you're doing. And thanks to Kelly for adding all these pictures. They look great. So do we have Garden Lakes on with us? Anybody from Garden Lakes? No? Okay, so Garden Lakes, I know, is a Pendergast school, I believe. And we've, like I said, we've been meeting on Mondays once a month. And I think they had even executed like a STEM, one of them was like a STEM Spirit Week where they had dress up days. And then then they did a couple other action plans. So what about Michael Anderson? We had a great conversation with them. So can you guys share what you were doing? Go ahead and unmute so we can hear you. One of you, I don't care. There's 8.
As CSOs, we were bringing awareness about animal abuse and why you should not do it. We were also sharing like some information like what to do if you find a lost dog or like any pet like that, and how to, if you ever find one, how to take care of it, and like why you should not abuse them. So
great. And you guys talked about how nervous you were at first, but you all went in together, right? And it turned out great. All right, what about Centerra Mirage? This was a great idea too.
Hi, my name is Adeline. I'm the Chief Science Officer for Centerra Mirage STEM Academy. And our action plan was to create STEM awareness for my school community by giving a list of STEM professionals throughout history and having classrooms create a poster based on that person that they choose. So they get to do their own research and create a cool looking poster. And once they put them on their door, me and my advisor go around and judge the doors, and whoever we think has the best poster wins a free dress pass.
And a free dress pass because you guys have a uniform code at your school, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Ben, maybe a couple of schools that were in your breakout session. You want to call on a couple?
Yeah. I know a few people weren't done yet with their action plans, but they were getting them finished up. CSO Gessel, do you want to share out about what you did for your action plan?
Sure. So my action plan was to have a hands-on learning experience with kids from our younger grades so they can have a basic learning of basic science so they know what they might expect when they grow older.
Anyone else, Ben?
Let me see. I know some people weren't,
Sure, they're still working on it.
we're still working on it, yeah. Um,
Well, as you see, we have a few photos. So if you haven't posted your photos of your action plan or you guys at work, we want to make sure you take a team photo or a selfie of you at the computer today. We want some CSO images of you, the CSOs, so we can brag a little bit about you and know what you're up to. So if you are at Avondale and you're not logged into your CSO account because of restrictions, you can always email them to us or have your advisor email them.
Valentina and Ben, what about the two of you? Would you be willing to share your action plan highlights and kind of where you are with all of us? So you can practice using our elevator pitch.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben. I'm the Chief Science Officer at Verrado High School. This year, my action plan included creating a litter pickup challenge using an app called Litterati, where basically it would keep track of the amount of litter that students at my school would pick up. And from there, I was able to see who picked up the most, and they ended up winning the competition. Some areas where I can improve on is probably just getting kids more excited about the challenge. I know I wished that more people had joined the challenge, so that's probably an area in which I can improve on for next year.
Awesome. Thank you, CSO Ben. My name is Valentina, the Chief Science Officer at Prepa Tec Querétaro. As a CSO, my action plan included sharing out STEM kits to a local elementary school in my area with 5th and 6th graders. And after completing my action plan, I felt very excited that these students already had these resources so they can continue learning about STEM in their homes. And something I could have improved, also like CSO Ben, maybe getting a bigger group together, maybe reaching out to more classrooms in the future, because a lot of them are also online. So it would be fun to get more of that engaging and in-person piece. So, yeah.
Great job. So we're just going to talk about this. This is also in your binder pages, I believe, and it's kind of the schedule, the calendar, if you will, of where we should be for the year as you're working on action plans, because this is the end of March and we wrap up this season for you guys, with our STEMmies, our big award, May 4th this year. And so we are today, if you finish your action plan, one of the things we'll be walking you through is that reflection form. But if you're not, we want to make sure we can support you. So if we're looking here in March, we are hoping that you had finished one action plan by now. We know that a lot of people, with all the craziness this year that school has been with, still kind of on the heels of the pandemic and everything, some came on late and some of you weren't able to execute things just due to restrictions at your schools. But we really want to help you be successful. So if you are, Ben mentioned there was a few in his breakout room. I know there was one in our breakout room. You still need some support because you haven't been able to execute your plan yet. Please reach out to either Ben or Valentina, reach out to your advisor. You're free to reach out to me and I can contact your advisors. So maybe if you could just type in the chat, if you still need some support, and then we can follow up with you. We want to help make you successful. So wanted to make sure that you see this. That's our job, right? As advisors and cabinet coordinator, is to be your cheerleaders and to help you make your dream and your passion become successful. And that's what CSO is all about, helping you create that voice for yourself, right? And as Valentina talked about in our cabinet meeting, just developing you into a leader. Sometimes it's scary stepping out and doing those things. You have to have conversations with adults that you might not normally have conversations with, principals, other people to help coordinate things. You have to put yourself sometimes in front of groups of people that you're not used to doing, and that's kind of scary. So we want to help support you with all of those things. And Valentina, what did you say in our group? Something about the first 20 seconds. What did you say?
Oh yeah, I think this is something I've heard Kelly say a lot. Like those first 20 seconds before you speak are very nerve-wracking. So, but once you get that over with, it's very relieving. So,
Yep. And once you do it, get through that first time, then it's easier the next time and the next time and the next time. So Valentina and Ben both, are doing most of our training, and they have been in the program for a while, and it's been fun to watch them develop as they've been part of the West Valley Cabinet. So to where they're doing most of the training today. So we want to help you CSOs make sure that your action plan gets carried through. So please, please, please let us know what we can do to help support you. Valentina.
yep. So remember, like Tammy mentioned, we're here to support you. I think Ben just put his email there in the chat. I'll be sure to put mine in a few moments as well. So be sure you have your approval if you do, and get this form filled in. And if you still have not gotten approval during the next 2 weeks, try to meet with your administration and get this in as soon as possible, please.
And I think actually at the end today, I believe that this link is posted in the classroom. So maybe at the end today, we'll give people a chance to hop over there and complete that. Right, Kelly, this is all in the classroom.
Right, and we want to know, I know Avondale is not able to access other domains. So we want to make sure everybody is able, I'll make a link specifically for Avondale. So before we log off today, we want to make sure you guys have what you need to answer these questions. But Pendergast CSOs should be logged in, but go ahead and drop in, I'm in, if you're in the Arizona CSO classroom, or I need help. So we make sure we do that before we log off today. I'm going to challenge both Ben and Valentina to take a selfie and post it on the Arizona classroom wall and say we're at our spring cabinet meeting. And then all of you that are in, comment. Yes, Aiden, because you're in Avondale, they didn't allow you to add it to your Chromebook at school. Do you have a personal device? Oh, cool. Then let's put it on your phone. Can you add it to your phone? Or do you have parent protection on your phone? Okay, let me go get your account real quick.
And we want to make sure that you are in the Arizona classroom and also in the West Valley Cabinet classroom. So for instance, that's where we posted the link for registration today for just the West Valley. So we want to make sure you're in both classrooms.
Perfect. We'll make sure we get everybody who needs help or information before we log out today. I'm going to move around some things on my screen and then put the slides back up to talk about reflection. But while I do that, Aiden, I'll be getting your information. The cool part, it sounds like a lot of people were done with their action plan. So this form, I think Valentina is going to go over, what do you say in your reflection? Or maybe it's Ben. I don't know who's in charge of this one.
Oh yeah, so here we have the reflection as well. So right after the approved, if you have already implemented your action plan, be sure to also get in the reflection. So this is kind of how it looks like. You select your action plan type, the participants, the ages, also as well as if you approved it, you've got it approved. How often did you implement it? So maybe it was a weekly thing, bi-weekly, or maybe it was just a one-time thing. And then the total amount of people impacted, what could have been improved. We kind of already touched on that with our discussions. Your largest struggle, what you learned, how satisfied you were, and then any additional feedback. So this is how our reflection is. Oh, do we have any questions?
Kelly, can we confirm, is this in the Arizona cabinet or is it in the West Valley cabinet, this assignment?
All of the required assignments are in Arizona.
Okay, that's what I thought. And I was just looking at that. So what I've seen as far as turned in approved action plans on my end are just 2 from Arizona. So if you haven't, we want to make sure we get that done today at the end.
Okay, so Mia, you have a question. It's a CSO account. I'll drop your information. Aiden, I put in your full username. It's all of that, Aiden090920 at chiefscienceofficers.org. You have to add an account. And then your temporary password is TRAH4G=B, but it's going to ask you to change it. So when you add it to your phone, is there anybody else who needs their account or can add it to a personal cell phone? Drop your name in the chat. We want to make sure you're filling out this form in detail. This is how we evaluate. As Tammy mentioned, we are selecting winners for outstanding CSOs and CSO of the year, CSO advisors of the year. So helping each other get this information, this is how we help select winners for the STEMIES award. So, like, what did you learn from your experience? If you want to drop that in the chat, I'd love to see what you actually learned from being a CSO so far this year. Even if you haven't completed your action plan, go ahead and drop in. What have you learned so far?
Adeline, I love what you put, that you learned that it was hard to implement and to get an idea approved, but with the right help, you can impact a lot of students and teachers. You're right, adults too. Fabulous. And Ben, that is so true. I think sometimes the beginning when we're first starting, we kind of bump into some walls, or we don't know the right people, or we can't talk to the people that we need to. But once you get going, you're right, Ben, it does kind of roll along. Here's another good question that we just popped up in the chat. So advisors, we're going to kind of put you on the spot. We've had the CSOs talking, but we do have a handful of advisors today with us. So I think that's fabulous. Can you share some things that you have learned about your CSOs, some things that you've appreciated, some things that you've watched as they have developed?
Hi, good morning. I can talk for Michael Anderson. So this is my first year running the CSO. So we actually are learning together. And when we started, we were like, we went through the binder. We were looking at what we needed to do, and the kids have been great. We have a small group, but we started with 6th grade. So that way we know what we need to do and learn this year so we can do better next year. I can also say that the kids have grown a lot from the beginning. They like they said, they were nervous, but the more classes we did, and they brought stickers, and it was really like their project, their presentation, and I was just there to kind of push them and open the door so they can go and talk to the kids. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. That was great. Miss Osborne, how about you from Centera Mirage? You've been an advisor for a few years now. Something that you were excited about for Adeline as you watched her develop her action plan.
What I really enjoyed with working with Adeline is her passion for the STEM and how she's very committed. And when we meet, she brings a lot to the table. And she's also started helping me look at how we're going to recruit our next CSOs. And she'll be going into classrooms and she'll be sharing what she's been doing. So she's really become a part of how we're running things.
Developing the whole thing, not just her action plan with going into classrooms and doing those STEM research projects for classes, but actually developing a whole program at your school. That's fabulous. Do we have any other advisors on? So one thing I think would be helpful is if you could put in the chat, those of you that have not finished your action plan or haven't had a chance to do it yet, can you maybe just drop in the chat? Maybe we can even unmute and have a little bit of a discussion. What are the challenges that you're facing right now? So maybe it's coming up with an idea, maybe it's knowing who to talk to, maybe it's financial. Let's just talk about that so we can brainstorm as a team to how best support you, because it sounds like there's a handful of people still working on their action plans. So if you want to drop it in the chat, then maybe Ben and Valentina, you guys can facilitate a little bit of a discussion here before we move on in our slides, because this is really the core of what we're doing today. We want to make sure that you are able to execute that and we can help you.
Shout out to Kimberly too. It does get a little easier each time you unmute. So Kimberly, I'm going to challenge you while everybody else is thinking. Can you unmute and say, hello, my name is the Chief Science Officer from for me?
All right, here you go. Hello, my name is Kimberly Cruz, the Chief Science Officer at Michael Anderson School. As a CSO, my action plan included animal abuse. After completing my action plan, I felt how'd you feel? Like happy that we got over the thing. Yeah, and then you share with kids. Okay.
Thank you. Nice job. Way to be on the spot. I love it.
We did it.
So I didn't see any challenges pop up in the chat. So do we not have any challenges?
Oh, Aiden has one. Aiden, what's your challenge?
So a challenge that we had, or mainly I had, was mainly trying to present our stuff, and because there was so much going on, like there was so much practicing, like, oh my god, you got to do this at this time. And all the research was really hard because it takes time to build up something that you have to present.
Well, I'll go ahead and unmute and say kudos to all of our teachers. So thank you, Miss Osborne, Miss Tapia, because oh my goodness, they do that every day, Aiden. For every class. It is hard, right? And they have to also be interesting and cool. Man, it's tough role to be a teacher, but now you have a little bit of an understanding of what goes into, making that happen. Yay, I'm so glad you appreciate her. I'm sure she appreciates you recognizing the effort that you put in. Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna put Valentina and Ben back on the spot. Ben has been a Chief Science Officer for 6 years, since he was your age. So Ben, I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the key things, maybe 2 or 3 highlights that you've learned in your journey. And then Valentina also. Valentina, this is your 5th year, right? Or are you 4th?
4th, yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's gone so fast. It's crazy. But okay, so Ben, share a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I started my journey technically back in 5th grade. That's when I was elected to be a chief science officer. But I didn't attend my first LTI until this summer in between my 5th and 6th grade year, because I was going to represent my peers as 6th grader the following year. So obviously that summer I had to be trained on what a CSO was. And even the program itself has changed a lot throughout those years. Another key point in my CSO journey would probably be my 7th grade year when I implemented, I would say, my first real action plan. My 6th grade action plan was a little bit of a letdown. I did end up implementing it, but my 7th grade one was actually really, really cool because I was actually able to set up a field trip for the 5th graders at my school to attend a local regional park and mountain range. And since then, the impact has actually been really cool because the city actually since then has started to do official field trips for all schools now, which they did not have available until I started to implement that at my school. So now they're doing it for all schools in Buckeye, which is really cool. And then my 8th grade year, I had the opportunity of going to Washington, D.C. and visiting the White House. That was a really cool point because that was my first time I was able to travel with the program. And from there, I was able to learn a lot of important leadership skills that helped me along the rest of my journey. And then that sort of led into high school. So I left my middle school, and I sort of struggled a little bit my freshman and sophomore year here at high school because I didn't have that support of an advisor. This year, however, I now have gotten an advisor. Since then, I've reached out to one of my teachers, and luckily I have an advisor. And now, setting up into next year, I'm hoping to grow the program a little bit more at my school, maybe get a few more CSOs.
Thanks, Ben.
Well, right now I'm in my 4th year, and as well, like I felt like I've experienced a lot of growth throughout these past few years. I think my 2nd year was when I actually started to learn how to step out of my comfort zone, and I feel like that's when I started to learn a lot. Just like seeing right now, CSO Kimberly, how you did that is amazing. You know, little by little, you start learning a lot once you start to step out of your comfort zone, and I think really Kelly has helped me push myself a lot in the beginning. And then also I think 3rd year, these 3rd and 4th year, when the pandemic hit, I really learned the importance of communication and how even whatever life throws your way, it's very important to stay connected, however that may be. And I think that's really helped keep our network together. And I hope to learn a lot more the next few years from you guys and from the rest of our network. So yeah, it's been really fun being a part of this CSO journey, and I hope all of you will also enjoy this as well.
And Aiden, you are right. You're spot on when you say that Ben and Valentina are good resources for you. So make sure you have their email because they both would be a great support to you and have lots of insights. Sounds like Michael Anderson's are ready to take on their next project. They've already completed one. Sounds like they're ready to roll out with another one.
I think that's a good step into communications, how we can stay connected as CSOs. And now we're going to talk a little bit about how CSOs communicate and how we can communicate the details of our action plan. So first and foremost, we use the G Suite tools because they're excellent for CSO collaboration. So please make sure before we end the meeting today that you can log in. If you need help, let us know now, and we can make sure to connect you with Kelly and get you logged in today. You can also share a blog today. Here's a little bit of a rubric of what you can talk about. hopefully help you get started with your blog. You can also record a video and maybe post it in Google Classroom. That's why we have our West Valley CSO Classroom, so that we can collaborate and post stuff in there. And it would be amazing to hear a little bit about what CSOs across West Valley and across the state of Arizona are doing. So if you are willing, we're going to take a few minutes, if you want, to record a little video to post into the Google Classroom about how your action plan is doing. If anyone has like a phone or something to record available with them, then we can take a few minutes right now to record a video.
Oh, I see Kelly's offering up CSO gear. Do we have any volunteers?
Oh, I think I have a private message one. Super excited. Anybody else? We'd love to have you. Anybody volunteer and unmute and fill in the blanks. Read the script. Fill in the blanks.
All right.
Yay, go Aiden.
As a CSO this year, I was able to participate in the Leadership Training Institute cabinet meetings and implement an action plan focused on animal abuse awareness. Being a chief scientist has given me the opportunity to share my ideas with other people and collaborate with a team that knows that can actually participate with me, and it's nice to have a group. During the year, I was unsure about like how the project was going to go. Like, okay, so how do we do this? But okay, then if we do this, then how are we going to do this? But I was most surprised how successful it was in the very end. How when we finally presented, we were able to share that information with other people, and it was nice to have them hear it. I was excited to implement my action plan because I've been wanting to talk about animal abuse awareness for a long time because it happens a lot. So it was nice to finally get that information to other people who are finally aware about it, and like the kindergartners and the first graders and second graders, they're all aware of it. So next year, my goal is to do another project, continuing CSO for a lot longer, and continue with projects and helping other people learn. Don't just hope it happens, make it happen.
Nicely done. Woohoo! Thank you. All right, so Aiden, you need to decide, do you want a hat, a bag, a sweatshirt? What would you prefer?
Sweatshirt.
All right, cool. I'll put some notes in the chat. I'll email your teacher too. Any other brave souls out there? Going once. Going twice.
They're cool sweatshirts, little zip up hoodies, just saying, perfect for Arizona.
Oh, I love Miss Tapia. She's like, come on, you can do it.
All right, Adam's gonna do it.
All right.
Yeah, do it for my computer. I don't know what this is. It's right here.
pretty easy.
Just read it.
Okay. Okay, I can take that. As a CSO this year, I was able to participate in the Leader Training Institute cabinet meetings and implement an action plan focused on awareness on animal abuse. Being a chief science officer has given me the opportunity to be around with people who I know to talk about awareness about animal abuse. And that's it. During the year, I was unsure about what to do, but I was surprised about how well we were all able to communicate and find the research that we need. I was excited to implement my action plan because we were able to talk about it to classrooms and small crowds. One of my favorite experience as a CSO was being with people so we can talk about projects, information, and research. Next year, my goal is to make even more projects about different types of things to share around with more people. And that's it.
Nicely done. Yay. Thank you for being brave. All right. I know Valentina is so proud of you all because that's always the first thing is saying yes to the opportunity. So good job. And shout out to Miss Tapia for pushing him.
So just a reminder, if you guys can record those videos, Ms. Tapia, if you could actually record them, today would be good practice for them, and then send that to us. And then advisors and students, don't forget, send us pictures when we get ready for the STEMmies. We definitely want to have a representation of the West Valley because we are a good sized cabinet and we want to be able to kind of showcase and give big shout outs to all the things that you guys are doing in the West Valley. We're super excited. So don't forget to do those things.
Yes, that's really, make sure that you share, present, take pictures. I would encourage you to talk to anyone who is willing to listen because your action plans and what you guys are doing in your communities and schools are just incredible. I know Pendergast has already recorded a presentation for their school board and it was actually shared at the school board meeting, which is really, really cool. So share with anyone who's willing to listen. If that's a school board or a teacher or some friends, just share about your experiences as being a CSO.
Has anybody else shared outside their school or even within their school, like with teachers or administrators, their outcome, their action plans? Those are all great places Kelly's putting in the chat. Ben, can you share a little bit? Because you actually met with the mayor one time when you were a younger CSO. Want to tell about that a little bit?
Yeah, my freshman year of high school, I actually met with the mayor of Buckeye, and I talked to him a little bit about what being a CSO was, and that also opened the door for other opportunities. He actually came to our spring, I think it was our spring cabinet meeting, my freshman year, so it was in person that year. It's a little bit different this year, but talking to him at City Hall a few weeks later, he actually ended up coming out to our spring cabinet meeting and being our keynote speaker. So that was a really cool opportunity. I know another great way to share out, which is sometimes overlooked, is like social media. I know a lot of CSOs or CSO schools have like an Instagram account. And that's a great way to share out. I post a few things on my Instagram, on my CSO Instagram. And that's a great way to share about what you're doing in your communities and what you're doing for your action plans.
And I can tell you as a principal, I would be super, super excited. We don't have CSOs because now my school is only K-5, but when we did have CSOs, I for sure wanted them to share with everybody else what they're doing with other teachers, and with, I think we've even done presentations with the school board. So it's really important that people are seeing you as upcoming leaders, because that's what you are. And that goes back to having your voice, right? Your chance to express your passion for STEM and what you've been able to be involved in. So I know it's scary because talking in front of first graders, right? Michael Anderson was scary, but you can pre-record something. It's just super important. You guys, I don't know how to tell you, it just makes me super excited to see what you're doing as a principal, to see and hear what students are doing and how they're impacting their community. And if you don't speak up for yourself, sometimes people don't even know and they're not aware of that, of how amazing you are. So please be an advocate for yourself. If you need support from your advisors to help make that happen, make sure you're communicating with them too.
Yeah, Kelly posted in the chat that I know how to edit videos. I learned that through my film class. So if you guys have other different cool things that you learned in any of your classes or any unique skills, think of ways that you can use those skills as a CSO. So I know even for the plant club that I've helped to implement on my school or in my school, I've started to edit weekly videos to post updates about how our garden is going.
Excellent. I think the last thing we want to talk about is the spring cabinet report, but I know we had Stephanie wanted to volunteer. Let me go back to that slide.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. If my voice shakes because I'm out here in the cold. They got me outside. As a CSO this year, I was able to participate in the Learning Institute cabinet meeting and implement an action plan to focus on engaging the younger grades in my school, like K through 4th grade or 5th grade, I think, on STEAM activities. Like, for example, I was gonna have them plant like beans in a little milk carton because I did that once. I was gonna have them learn that, and I was also gonna have them learn on infrastructure. So yeah, and being a chief science officer has given me the opportunity to uh sit out here in the cold. I'm just kidding. um, it's given me opportunity to participate in like some volunteer work. I know the only one I did actually volunteer in was this one where the bees one of ASU, where we just had a little study group. That's the only one I did because it was online. And during this year, I was unsure about like who to contact and where to get started on my action plan. I didn't really know where to do that, but I was surprised about how organized these meetings are, and like it's pretty fun every month that we do it. So yeah, and I'm excited to implement my action plan because I like kids, and I think it's gonna be really fun to like work with them, especially the little ones. They're really fun. And one day, my favorite oh no, one of my favorite experiences CSO was again these meetings are really fun when y'all bring like some speakers in. And next year, my goal is to well, I don't think I'm going to be a CSO next year in my school because I don't think they have it, but I hope I can still like work on projects like this in my high school next year.
Thank you so much for sharing, Stephanie. Um, super excited that yes, even if your high school doesn't have it, you can stay connected with us. And, you know, Ben will tell you, he has started it at his school. So stay connected and we'll make sure you can participate and continue to grow as a chief science officer. And then of course, I think Adam, you also need to tell me what size and what color of a zip up hoodie. We'll make sure we get one for Stephanie too. Drop it in the chat and I'll make sure I get those out to you guys. All right, spring cabinet report. Who's sharing about this?
So before we end the meeting today, please make sure that you complete the spring cabinet meeting report. It should be posted in Google Classroom. So please make sure to do that before you log off today.
Can we?
Let me know.
Oh, sorry, Ben. Do you mind if we do it right now?
Yeah, we can take a few minutes right now to do the spring cabinet meeting report.
We have a few people that need assistance getting into different places. So let's answer some of the questions because we have Diego looking to get into the classroom. So Diego, are you in your CSO account? Let me show my screen real quick. Okay. The Arizona CSO classroom is where we share everything across the state of Arizona. And you'll notice that not everybody that has been invited has accepted. They're a lighter color. So if your name, Adam, I don't see you on here. So do you have your CSO account? Let me see if I can. Oh, there's some chat going on. Okay. And we have closed it down. So I don't think anybody at Avondale is able to add it to your school. So you have to add it to your personal device. The class code is here. Okay, good. Let me get Adam's account. Is there anybody else who does not have their CSO account available? You don't know what it is. All right, while we're waiting, Ben, you want to throw in the perspective? So we're the link to perspective so they can go check out some videos.
Yeah, can you give me 1 minute, please?
Sure. Okay, Diego needs an account and Adam.
And it looks like Kimberly too. Kelly, I'm not sure if you saw that from Michael Anderson.
All right, so Adam, I'm gonna put your information in the chat box. Oh, good, here comes the LT. We'll have him share. Good morning, Cody. We're so excited you were able to join at 10. So this is perfect timing. Students, we have our guest from the United States Air Force on from obviously the West Valley. So I want you to think about what questions you're gonna have because after the presentation, you need to make sure you post your questions in the chat, but Valentina, go ahead and welcome Lieutenant Beamer. Or no, wait, Captain. Are you Captain or Lieutenant, sir?
I'm a captain.
He's a captain. All right. So Captain Beamer.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Captain Beamer. Oh, my name is Valentina, and I'm a Chief Science Officer as well as many of these other students on the call. We're just really excited to have you on and hear your experience. So thank you.
All right. Sorry about being delayed here. Had a work thing come up that was unforeseen. I'm trying to make sure I can share my slides with you all. All right, are you guys able to see those?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so again, my name is Captain Cody Beamer. Sorry you can't see my face here. You can see a picture of me there with my wife, but I don't have my government computer won't allow me to access my camera on here. So anyways, here's a little slide about me. So myself, I'm actually a Marine Corps brat. I grew up, my dad was a Marine from the time I was born until I was about 15. During that time, we lived in 5 different states. Those are all indicated by the red marks there. That's where I lived with my dad while he was active duty. 8 schools, but call Iowa home. So when my dad actually retired, I was born in Montana. My dad retired, like I said, right around when I was 14, 15 years old. We moved to Iowa, and I spent all my high school and then also went to college there. So as you can see, I went to Iowa State University. So go Cyclones. I actually made it Sweet 16 in basketball here recently, so that's exciting news for us. Graduated from Iowa State in 2014 with a degree in civil engineering. From there, I joined the Air Force. I was in ROTC, which is Reserve Officer Training Corps, which is where a majority of commissioned officers come from in the Air Force. So went through the program there at Iowa State, graduated, and then went off with my high school sweetheart, Mackenzie. You can see her there in the bottom left-hand corner. We got married shortly before graduation. We moved to our first duty station, which was Grand Forks, North Dakota. So all the blue spots are where the Air Force has sent us. So went to Grand Forks, North Dakota, where I was a base level civil engineer and also did some stuff at the Mission Support Group. From there, I went to Ohio, where I went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is in Dayton, Ohio, and got my master's degree in engineering management from the Air Force Institute of Technology. So very cool program where they basically paid for me to be a lieutenant in the Air Force and also get my master's degree. So learned a lot there, a lot of statistics, did a thesis where I worked with the VA and looked at the built environment and veterans and how it affects their mental health. Got to do a lot of really cool work there, been published a couple times, so that was a lot of fun. From there, I came here to Luke Air Force Base in Arizona, and been here for the last 3 years. I've done a multitude of things here at the base level, to include being the operations side of the flight. So civil engineers really maintain the base, sustain the base, and also do any sort of new construction on base. So I have been involved in from the very ground maintenance kind of work to things like large scale construction projects where we're building brand new hangars and things of that nature for the F-35, so the jets you guys see flying overhead. Also, since I've been here, I've deployed twice, once to Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. So I went there back in 2019 for about 6 months. And we built a bear base, which is basically a large tent base in the middle of the Saudi desert. So that was a whole lot of fun. Very Aladdin-esque, living in the sand dunes and seeing what the Middle East was all about. So that was cool. And then here recently, actually, I guess about a year ago, I got back from my second deployment, which was to Qatar, just outside of Doha, Al Udeid Air Base, which is the major hub for the United States Air Force in the Middle East. So very large base, have a lot of things going on there. And that one was a little bit more of a traditional deployment where I was working on base level, working contractors coming on base and doing work with the government. So a little bit, I guess, more about me. Married, 2 kids, 2 dogs. You can see the 2 boys there, Wesley and Theo, and then one of my puppies there, Zoe, both schnauzers. What I like to do, I love to run. I was a high school runner. Always kind of kept up with that. Hiking and being out here has been an awesome assignment, especially during COVID. It's always pleasant weather, so it's easy to get outside. Golfing, and then of course being a dad, just being out and about. So And then that picture there on the right, I didn't mention that one. That one's my little hometown, so Lisbon, Iowa. So I graduated with like 49 kids, about 2,000 people that live in the hometown. So very, very cool little experience. Oh, and my next assignment, I didn't mention that, real exciting news. We recently found out we're going to Hawaii. So my next assignment will be in Honolulu, where I will be working on the detachment staff for the Installation Mission Support Center. I know a lot of this is just going over your all's head, but basically I'll be traveling around the Pacific, looking at large-scale construction projects, overseeing basing and bed down options for aircraft in the Pacific, and doing a lot of cool things. So everything from Alaska to Australia, I'll kind of be out there helping put together. So get into a little bit more of what I do as a civil engineer in the Air Force. So again, I really we're charged with maintaining and sustaining the base. So we oversee major construction efforts on base, as well as making sure everything keeps up and running. So for example, here in Arizona, the HVAC is a very big deal, right? You can make sure that all the facilities are air conditioned. So we fight that battle every summer, making sure that we can keep everything running. A lot of our facilities on Luke are 50, 60, 70 years old. And so maintaining those, making sure they're up and running, everything from the electrical lines in the ground and the sewer pipes to the hangars and the runway. We oversee all of that. So we basically maintain and sustain everything. We have an annual operating budget, somewhere around $20 million that we work with to maintain the base. And then we also oversee a lot of the contracted construction work. So our job is to be project managers. So we oversee when they come on and say they're pouring new slabs of concrete, things of that nature. We see all of that, oversee all of that. Some of those pictures there in the middle, you can see one thing that Air Force civil engineers do when we're downrange are we recover the airfield after an attack. So let's say we have an enemy come in and they bomb our airfield to try to prevent us from being able to launch and recover our aircraft. So when they make those holes in the airfield, we can't, send out a plane. What we have to do is actually fix that. So what you can see there, that's me and Ali Dean in Qatar, and we did some exercises where we practiced that, where we would cut out a chunk of concrete and we'd fill it in with a rapid set concrete and get it all ready. So I got to get out there and get my hands dirty a little bit. I was really kind of overseeing everything, but the guys wouldn't let me just do that. They made sure I had to get out there and be dirty. So, and then you can see some of the other fun stuff we put together. So some of these large hangars and others. So this one was actually became a gym for us in Saudi Arabia. This one over here with the cranes underneath of it and the man lifts, those are that would be a hangar. So you'd be able to slide like a fighter pilot or fighter jet inside there, and they could do maintenance inside of it. So I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to the chat. It's terrible of me. All right.
Keep going. We'll ask at the end.
Okay. And then just some other fun stuff, there's my Wes acting like he's a civil engineer. They always tell me they want to be a civil engineer. We'll see how long that sticks. Going to the Air Force Ball. So, you get to do a lot of fun functions also in the Air Force, not all about work. They take good care of us and we get to do a lot of really cool things. This picture is especially precious because I got to actually surprise my boys when I came back last spring. They had no idea I was coming back. I'd been gone for about 200 days at that point. Came in and we got some family pictures done where I actually kind of popped out and surprised them. So that was really cool. And then you can see me loading. There's a picture of us walking to load onto a C-17, which is a large carrier aircraft that we use to move supplies and troops all around the world. Very cool aircraft, very big. Got to go on one of those from Saudi Arabia to Qatar when I was redeploying, coming back home from Saudi Arabia in December of 2019. So the Air Force is taking me a lot of really cool places, and we've got to do a lot of really cool things being in the Air Force so far. So, all right. My last slide here, I guess they asked to give some tips, advice, and more. So what are some things that I kind of do, I guess. So I put on there that my favorite quote of all time came from a man named Steve Prefontaine. If you don't know who he is, I highly recommend looking him up. He was a great American runner, did some remarkable things as an Olympic athlete, but he also was just notorious for having just an unmatched work ethic and drive. And one thing he said was to give anything less than your best is sacrifice the gift. And I really carry that with anything I do, right? From writing a paper to filling in holes in the middle of the desert in a runway. I think you should always put all you have into anything that you're doing. With that, what are you good at? That's kind of how what gravitated me towards running. I did a running test when I was in my 5th grade. And I remember everybody complaining about how much it was terrible and nobody liked doing it. I was pretty good at it just naturally. And then also I kind of liked being good at something that nobody else liked. I thought it was kind of cool, a little rebel, I guess, in me. So find what you're good at, push yourself to excel at something that you're good at, find what you're good at and enjoy it. Find a way to make it something that you have fun with. Have a positive attitude. It's definitely taken me a lot of places. In fact, we talk about my family, our kind of unofficial family song is Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Optimism is a force multiplier. I believe that's Colin Powell said that. I highly agree with that, I guess. Positive attitude means everything. So if you have a can-do attitude, you will be able to get it done. So that kind of contradicts my first point, but make yourself uncomfortable. Find things that you don't like to do. You may not be able to tell, but I'm not much of a public speaker. I don't really like getting in front of people and talking, right? But being an officer, I have to stand up in front of hundreds of different, enlisted members, and they kind of look to me to be their guiding light and to give them their marching orders. So it's uncomfortable for me to do that, but the more I do it, the more comfortable I get with it, and eventually I get very good at it, hopefully. And then never pass up an opportunity. There's an old saying that in the Air Force, a lot of it comes up to time, luck, and circumstances, and I definitely believe in that. I think I've had a lot of really cool opportunities, and maybe the difference between me and some of my peers has been my ability just to say, yeah, I'll do it. I might not be comfortable with it. I might be a little scared. When I went to Saudi Arabia, I had about 2 weeks notice. They called me and they said, hey, Iran is getting very dangerous in the Middle East. We need to set up a bear base in the middle of Saudi Arabia to help deter against them. And you're on that team. You're going to go out there with about 100 different engineers, and you're going to go do this work. Very nerve-wracking. Never been overseas before, never done any of that, right? So, but I was undeterred, I guess. I said sure and signed up, and turned out to be one of the most amazing opportunities of my life. And then STEM is awesome. I love everything has to do with math, science. Chemistry is really what I enjoyed in college, to be honest. I truly love STEM, but also emotional intelligence, emotional IQ is just as important. A lot of my job comes back to how I communicate with people, working with them, and just from a day-to-day standpoint, it's a lot more than just being able to sit down and do equations, being able to work with people and help them out. So there's some other silly quotes on there, but that's kind of me in a nutshell, and kind of I guess the advice I'd have for you all. With that, I'll open up to any questions you've got. Let's see. Build an Air Force base so quickly. Did you always know you wanted to be an engineer? Actually, no. So I think growing up, I really wanted to be a vet. So I loved The Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin. I was every Saturday morning watching Steve Irwin chase around, whatever, alligators or stuff. So that's what I really kind of wanted to do. And then I got a scholarship opportunity as a senior in high school. The Air Force said, hey, we will pay for your college, but you have to do something within the STEM career field. So that's one thing that really opened up, from a STEM standpoint. I always loved math, science. I was good at it and enjoyed doing it in high school. But I had basically a list of majors that I had to choose from, and settled on civil engineering. I did a lot of construction type work for my uncle's company in Colorado when I was coming up in high school. So that's how I kind of came to being a civil engineer. And unlike a lot of my peers, I just stuck with it. I know a lot of people change their majors in college and can't really make a decision. But for me, I found my path right away, and it worked out really well. So super, super glad I did it. And then how many days does it take to construct a hangar? So those hangars that you saw, those were about 2 weeks. So there's two different construction types that you can do on them. One of them is the foundation is concrete, which is what we put together there. That takes a little bit more effort because you got to drill through the concrete and you got to drive these giant 4-foot stakes into the ground. These are the expeditionary ones, the tent ones, I should say. So yeah, these ones over here. So they take about 2 weeks-ish for them to put up. Actually pretty quickly, remarkably quick when you think about it. Or you can do it on sand, which means you just take like a jackhammer and you nail these giant stakes into the ground to hold up that facility, which is very difficult process, especially in Saudi Arabia. Who would have known that ground was so hard? So it took a lot of work. When it comes to like a permanent hangar here on base, we have about 2-year construction contracts. So the really big hangars that we have here for the F-35, they take about 2 years for us to construct, which is a long time. But these are also state-of-the-art hangars because they have a lot of special security things and other stuff that goes into them because of the F-35 being such a tight-lipped machine, I guess I should say. Let's see, what was the most difficult part of my job? I would say, that's a good question. Getting through some of the mundane stuff, right? So like, I think we all have parts of our jobs that we don't enjoy the most, right? I know my wife is actually a 3rd grade teacher here in town, and I think if she could just be in the classroom teaching students all the time, she would love her job immensely. But sometimes it's the administrative burden that comes along with it that really weighs her down. And I would say it's kind of the same for us, dealing with as an officer, we're charged with also dealing with individuals who have made mistakes, whether that be like a DUI or something of that nature. And it's always hard to come down on those people, and there's punishments that come along with it, to include like forfeiture of pay and stuff. So you're changing somebody's life when you have to come up with some of those things. So I'd say that's probably the hardest thing to do, just because I don't like being the bad guy. What do I love about my job? On the flip side, I love working with everybody, and I love seeing things accomplished. I noticed that from, I guess, a young age, but really in high school when I'd go out, I did hardwood floors with my uncle's company, and seeing, seeing a bare floor to putting a newly installed, finished, beautiful hardwood floor was always just so gratifying. And it's really cool to be in a career field where I get to do the same thing, where I get to see a project from its first initial thought to it fully constructed, and us parking an airplane inside of it, or us launching an aircraft off a runway that had just been paved, those kind of things. So it's really cool. What are some things that you have built in your career? Yeah, you name it, we've built it, I suppose. We've done everything from a dining facility to hangars. A lot of the stuff that you don't think about, but super important, like water pipes, sewage pipes, things of that nature. Especially when you're in the middle of the desert, and you're living in a tent. You'd have long runs of water pipes, and how do you get water to everybody? So the infrastructure part of it, we built that. Hey, we're working on a splash pad for the Air Force Base here, so we're working on building a splash pad. So yeah, you name it, we've done it pretty much. How do you become a captain? Was it hard? So no, actually not too hard. Outside of, you have to go through college. So there's a commission officer. You have to go through college. And then the ROTC program. So that adds some credits and some time to your degree. It took me 5 years to get my degree instead of the standard 4. But the Air Force was paying for it, so why not? But as far as the captain goes, you start as a 2nd lieutenant. And then 2 years in, it's kind of an automatic promotion to a 1st lieutenant. And then 2 years after making 1st lieutenant, it's pretty much an automatic promotion to being a captain as well. In fact, usually you have to give the Air Force a reason not to make you a captain. So you have to mess up, and they tell you can't be a captain. And then major, which will be my next rank, hopefully. That's where they actually really start to look at individuals and start to make the quality cuts on individuals. Still pretty high likelihood you make major though. So, would you change anything about your job degree?
Quickly, I was wondering if I could add in a quick question. Now that we were on the last train of thought on a lot of students mentioned the challenges on the career pathways. Did you by any chance have a mentor that helped you along the way throughout some of these challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that they push really big for Air Force in general, especially for young officers, is to find a mentor. So, let me say, for example, in Saudi Arabia, actually, my mentor was an enlisted troop, a senior NCO, Master Sergeant Smith, Russell Smith. We met there, and that's one of the really cool things about the Air Force is you come together from all walks of life, you meet people and become just best of friends. He was kind of my running mate there. So as I was the officer in charge, he was more or less my right hand man as my lead. Enlisted, and I would say I leaned on him more than he probably leaned on me. You know, he had the 22 years of Air Force experience. He had seen it all. He had deployed 9 times prior to that. He knew everything there was to know. And so leaning on him, not only from like a personnel standpoint, how do I motivate my guys? How do I make them happy? But also from a technical standpoint, okay, what do we want to do here? Why won't this structure be easy to put up here? Those kind of things. And then from, I guess from more of like an officership standpoint, we're always encouraged to find a mentor. And so I've had a lot of really great ones, squadron commanders in particular. My first squadron commander, Brad Ledford, he's actually a colonel now, about to head to Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. He's done so much for me in my career, from advocating for me to just helping me with opportunities and giving me advice along the way. And there's definitely a politics standpoint that comes with being an officer in the Air Force. So kind of navigating that point of it, knowing what things are good for my career, what's going to hurt my career, and the gamesmanship that goes along with it. And then as far as like changing anything about a job, I say the red tape. So working for the federal government, there just comes with a ton of red tape, and it's a very hard thing to get through. It's not as easy as you say, I want to build a splash pad in that park over there. You have to go through so many hoops. You got to find the money to be able to do that. You got to find the authority to do that. You got to make sure it doesn't impact any environmental laws. You got to go through all of these things that maybe wouldn't be otherwise considered if you were, maybe working for a city or something along those lines. The federal government definitely comes with its challenges when it comes to red tape and stuff like that. So. But degree, no, I love being a civil engineer. I would do this all over again if I had to choose from the beginning. So. Let's see. Do you receive any perks being captain that others don't have? Not really. Trying to think if there's anything I ever. No. Usually rank just comes with pay. You get paid a little bit better. Yeah, you get the captain bars. I guess that's a good point. But no, I can't think. I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular that I would get. Usually it's just rank, and if you're a good leader, and I strive to be, a lot of the things that I probably could take advantage of, let's say being the first one to go in and eat or something like that. A part of being a good leader is making sure you put your people first and allowing them to do those kind of things. So while rank comes with its privileges as far as just, I guess, your ability to, navigate life a little easier because you get paid a little better, stuff like that, I would say that for the most part, I don't have a lot of perks that anybody else has. I think maybe one thing would be knowledge. Like I'm able to ask higher level questions. I'm able to understand processes a little bit better because being a captain, being an officer, I'm just able to kind of dig into things and get answers a little bit easier than others would. People tend to jump a little bit more when you ask them to do something, but it's not something that you want to abuse, I guess. So, why did you choose Air Force rather than another branch of the military? A lot of it actually came down to my dad. So when my dad was active duty Marine Corps, we lived at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And if you haven't been to the Air Force Academy, absolutely beautiful. So I was 2nd grade through 4th grade living there, and it was like something out of a novel. It was just it's so perfect, so pretty. I remember walking to school every day. You're there with a bunch of kids who are also military brats, so they understand having your dad gone for long, extended periods of time, stuff like that. So I fell in love with the Air Force Academy, and so I thought, well, I want to go to the Air Force Academy when I grow up, and so kind of just kept pushing towards that. My dad definitely encouraged it. He said if I was going to join any branch, to go to the Air Force because, the Army and the Navy and the Marine Corps, they have different standards of living for the people, and he thought that the Air Force really kind of excelled as far as taking care of their people, and so that's what he encouraged me to do. But yes, go Army. I'm with you. All of them are great. I'm still a Marine Corps kid by trade. It took a long time to deprogram me from being Marine Corps rah-rah my entire life. So I still kind of look at the Marines as the cream of the crop for whatever reason. So.
Well, thank you so much thank you so much for your time, Captain Beamer, and for all the great questions in the chat. We actually have a couple just to close this up. So one of the questions that we had, I think they also just mentioned this in the chat. What kind of inspired you to study in this intersection between STEM and military?
So again, being a military kid, I had a lot of pride in the military and in doing that kind of stuff. And then my favorite subjects in school were always STEM related. I loved everything from biology to higher level math classes. I took calculus in high school and stuff. So I always loved STEM related fields. I knew I wasn't long in the tooth to be a writer or an English professor or anything like that. I was more about putting numbers on paper and working through problems in that sense. So I guess it kind of just came together as a perfect marriage and opportunity. They offered me a scholarship and I jumped at that opportunity and said, sure. So I think that all kind of just put it all on the right path for me.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of opportunities, I think on the last slide there, you had some great advice on taking those opportunities, kind of stepping out of your comfort zone. And we were actually just talking about that a while ago in our conversations as students and as we're implementing different projects in our area. And I was wondering if you had any advice to your 14-year-old self, if you were to right now be able to advise or make any suggestions of what would that be?
Great question. 14-year-old self, what would I tell myself? One thing that's cool about being 14 is you live in the moment, right? Like everything seems like a big decision or big deal when you're 14. I think maybe having the retrospect now of it's not always the end of the world, but messing up a paper and getting a C on a paper or failing a test or something, it's not the end of the world if you have the perseverance to kind of work through it. And same goes for like social things, right? The whatever it might be, girlfriend, boyfriend, those kind of things. To me, now where I sit is what I used to think was so important back then. It's funny how trivial it seems nowadays. And so, having hiccups or hurdles that you have to overcome, it's all part of life. Treat it as a learning opportunity and definitely don't let it deter you from doing something you really want to do or you really love.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point. How sometimes looking so much in the near future and not really taking into consideration how these mistakes are great opportunities to learn from. So, well, thank you so much again. We really appreciated all of this advice and all of these experiences as students, and this really helps us as we develop as future leaders. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
We really appreciate your, even though you had something come up at work today, really sticking with the plan and coming to see us. It's always valuable for the students to meet a STEM professional, and especially one that's right here in the backyard in the West Valley, at least for a few months until you head to Hawaii, but we'll have CSOs there too. So let's stay connected, and thank you so much for joining us. There's a couple more questions in the chat. If you want to answer them and chat back to the students, that'd be great. But we know your time is valuable and just really wanted to say thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for everything you do. Appreciate it.
And then we are going to hop back over to our slides. We have just a couple of final thoughts, and then I do want to give us time at the end to fill out those the spring cabinet report form. So I think I'm not sure if Ben is still with us, but you're going to mention perspective a tiny bit.
Yeah, perspective is is the CSO YouTube page where we post different videos talking about what CSOs are doing in their community. A lot of times we'll post videos, and the videos will have different themes. But it's a great way to share out about what CSOs have been doing in their communities.
And people could just Google it, right, Ben, or on YouTube?
Yep, so you can look up, I think it's called Perspective with CSO Kyra, or I will also put the link again in the chat. And how is everyone feeling today? These are final thoughts. They're having a good time. Hopefully you learned a little bit and were able to get some of your action plan reflection done or thought out at least.
You can type in the chat kind of what your thoughts are for today, how you're feeling after this meeting today.
Welcome to those that have just joined us. We're excited that you were able to log in. We're wrapping up just some of the details, but biggest thing is making sure you can get connected. And then what are your final thoughts for those of you that have been on the training since 8:30? For those of you that just joined, we're gonna check in with you before you log out. So thank you for sharing in the chat. How are you feeling? What do you need support with? How can we help?
CSO Kimberly, do you want to unmute and talk a little bit about your final thoughts on the meeting?
My final thought is how people like helped me a lot on this meeting, talking to other people, not face to face, but like speaking without thinking of other things.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to share out?
Sure, I have something to share. So my final thoughts are really well. I am very happy that I get to take the opportunity to be here and share some ideas with everyone, and I get some feedback, and people inspire me here. So that's nice to get that inspiration and those ideas to help further proceed to the next project of CSO.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, CSO Aiden. How about one more volunteer? Does anyone else want to share? How about CSO Alexis, if you're still there, do you want to share out?
Alexa, Ben was just asking you your final thoughts, if you had something to share out.
You can unmute if you want to. Oh, okay. Well, then you can share in the chat if you want to. That works as well.
Well, I just want to say real quick that I am super excited for all of us that could join us. I know sometimes joining this way is more challenging than being in person. We would love to be in person. Hopefully next year we'll be back in person where we all can gather and all school districts will be open to that. So a big shout out to you for taking the time out of your day. I know it's challenging when you're on your school campus to find a quiet space. And it looks like from the video that Ben has had to hop around even a couple of places himself, different classes and spaces. So thank you. Make sure you thank your advisors for helping find a space for you and being on for as long as you can. It's a long time to look at a screen. Not a lot of up moving around. So thanks so much for being here. And the special opportunity, I know Kelly's been posting about it in the chat. Take a look at that. Would love to have CSOs participate in this. And if so, I think you can message Kelly about that. And then before you log off today, I am just going to ask that you would go to the Google Classroom and fill out that spring cabinet page, that report before we go. And then as we see it populate, we will let you know when we get it. So I have one turned in, not from us. So there, Kelly's sharing it on her screen so you can see where it is. And then once that's done, we'll be finished up. If you joined us just recently, we are happy to stay on and chat with you, myself and Kelly. I know a lot of you have to get back to class.